You know why we need shorter copyright terms? Because the last Nightmare on Elm Street movie was more than a decade ago. Now, I'm not going to try to convince politicians of the value of having more schlocky slasher movies, but I am going to say that Elm Street is an amazing route onto Hollywood Boulevard. There are a lot of no-name filmmakers out there who have a talent for surrealist practical effects, who would feel right at home in this franchise. And their two biggest hurdles are going to be, how am I going to get a budget, and how am I going to make a return on my investment? If A Nightmare on Elm Street were in the public domain, they could get a budget more easily by advertising, we are making a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And then they would get a return on their investment better by advertising, we are making a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Now, if you're thinking this is exactly the thing that we don't like with things like Velma and Jungle Cruise, where Hollywood takes original stories and then just slaps well-known IPs on them, that's fine. You're allowed to be cynical. This isn't about you. This is about passion. These filmmakers can't get into Hollywood because they can't make a return on their investment. They can't get an investment in the first place. And slapping a well-known IP on this project so that it can get a return on its investment means that on the next project, they can turn to investors and studios and brands and product placement agencies and say, we made this amount of profit on our last movie. Will you help fund our next movie? And some of those filmmakers will go to bigger studios, lots of bigger studios, Touchstone, Blumhouse, A24, Lionsgate, Paramount, Sony, and say, we made this much on our last movie. We want our next movie to be with you. And that is a much better ticket to Hollywood than a no-name filmmaker who barely made their money back on an indie feature. I'm not saying we, the fans, would be better off by having one more Nightmare on Elm Street movie. I'm saying the world would be better off if everybody were allowed to make a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. It means more indie filmmakers from all around the country getting more money to do the cool stuff they want to do, which means more money coming into small indie productions all over the country, and that money being spent on local talent, local businesses, local food, and at least corporations that will pay local workers. That's just good for the economy. And it means more indie filmmakers from across the country rising up into Hollywood, which means more fresh perspectives. Making a Nightmare on Elm Street public domain might not be a massive shift, but it would make the world a better place. And it would improve the economy. And that's just one example of how the world would be a better place if we had shorter copyright terms. If laws are meant to help society, shorter copyright terms should absolutely be a law. Follow for more film talk.